Okay, hello everybody. Everybody here, everybody watching in the future. My name is Jay and I'm the director of a media organization called The Coos. Right now we're employed by WebZero, sponsored by Polkadot. They have a block spatey, maybe you've heard about it or know somebody who's been there. It's where the after party's happening tonight, so you'll get to check it out. But WebZero, whatever city that they build a space in, it becomes the home base for conference goers with all their events during the day, the co-working, and massive parties at night. They've been packed every night, probably be the same thing tonight. So we'll see you at the Block Spatey tonight. We have a very exciting panel for you today. This is all about DevRel. Not very familiar with the concept myself, so we're gonna learn together. We have Nader, he's the Director of Developer Relations at Eigen Labs. We have Patricia from Super Team Germany on the Solana side, and Viet, who is doing DevRel at Celestia. Guys, welcome to the panel. Let's give them a big round of applause. Good stuff. So here we are to learn today. I'm going to start by going down the line and just asking each one of our guests to define DevRel in the context of what they're building. Nada, could you give us a little hint of what DevRel is?
I guess the DevRel to me, and DevRel is short for developer relations, it's kind of just making developers successful and making them happy and building relationships with them.
Okay, thanks. Patricia?
I mean, in essence, that was the definition, so hard to add on this. So I am also not a DevRel, I'm not technical, but as part of Super Team Germany, I have a teammate, so I have someone on my team who does developer relations, and it's his job to create an ecosystem or to give developers everything they need to be as successful as possible building on Solana.
Okay, keeping developers happy, making sure they have everything they need to be successful. Yeah?
Just to add on top, to give you guys some analogy, think of DevRel as scouting for Michael Jordan. So if you're a Nike, it's your work to build relationships with very good athletes. Either they are, just starting out in their careers, or they are OGs. So yeah, this is basically DevRel, but for builders.
Okay, so making sure the builders are happy. This makes all my questions about dating developers kind of void. Okay, it'd be interesting to know what we're actually trying to build, what we want the developers to actually put together here. I know we're all building different things here. I'd be curious to know what it is that we're trying to build and whose vision that is. Now, do you have an idea? Yeah, sure. We'll think about it.
For me, okay. What are we? I guess it depends on the company that you work at.
I'm curious about the context of your company.
For me, for us specifically, well, previously I've worked with Celestia, I've worked with Aave, I've worked with the Graph protocol, and it's been wildly different. Yeah. And I think where I'm at now, it's very, very massive design space, because with Eigen Layer, the protocol, you can build any service that you can possibly imagine, and you can build on any chain. So we have people building on Monad, we have people building on Hyper EVM, we have people building on Base and Ethereum and Solana. So the design space is massive, so it's hard for me to kind of say what we want people to build. We want people to just be able to kind of understand what the value proposition is of Eigen Layer and Eigen DA. And therefore, when they run into a challenge that we can solve, then they reach out to us to build that. We don't come to them and say, hey, build with us, and force them to find a reason to build with us. We kind of educate them about what our product offering is, and then when they run into a situation that requires what we offer, then it just is a perfect fit, and that's kind of our approach.
What would you say is the value prop of Eigen Layer? Or maybe another way to phrase it is, what does the world look like without Eigen Layer?
Sure. So the world without Eigen Layer is basically any blockchain virtual machine is very, very, very constrained. You can't make outside API calls. You can't talk to databases. You can't talk to other chains without bridges. You can't interact with external, I would say LLM APIs. There's just a massive number of things that you can't do. Therefore, it's very constrained on what people often build, right? So you see a lot of tokens, I'm going to send tokens here and I'm going to bring tokens back. Mm-hmm. And then you have very massive constraints on computation. You can't do a lot of inference or anything like that. So with EigenLayer, you're essentially bringing the entire internet on chain with the same verifiability as an L1. So if you want to kind of build out a custom prediction market and you need information from a sports score happening and you want to bring that into your application, you can do that really easily with EigenLayer. If you want to build a custom bridge, you can do that with EigenLayer. If you want to bring inference into your smart contract, you can do that with EigenLayer.
Beautiful.
So a bunch of stuff.
Nice, busting through those constraints. It's like we're building in the 70s or something, and now we're kind of getting network going and stuff like this. Good. Patricia, I've heard about Solana, but can you tell us what it does?
What Solana is?
Yeah, what are you trying to build over there? What's the North Star of Solana?
I will tell you.
Yeah.
So first of all, let me ask. I guess Solana, most of you know Solana, right? Do you guys know Super Team? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Oh, amazing. So in essence, Solana is one of the fastest, most powerful blockchains, extremely high transaction per second, 65,000, while being extremely cost efficient, right? And at Super Team, we are the local talent community, the talent layer of Solana. I lead the German Super Team, but then there's my equivalent in 19 other countries right now and growing. So it's basically the talent distribution and also the go-to-market distribution layer of Solana. So the North Star of Solana, that is a very heavy-duty question.
Right.
I can tell you the North Star of our Super Team, right? So what kind of things we encourage our builders or our devs to focus on. And a very, very straightforward answer is build something that people actually want and use, right? So to start with, because you'd be surprised how many people are completely within their own, DeFi, ecosystem, build something that they have never tested, they've never done any customer research, they've never gone out and actually shown it to anyone. And I think it's particularly a problem of developers because they are extremely tech focused, as they should be, but then completely forget to actually go out and test and see, does anyone want this? Or is this maybe a feature I'm building for myself because I somehow think this works, right?
I see. So a focus on things that people actually want to use. And that is a tricky thing with developers because sometimes they can get in this building hole, right? And they build something and then lo and behold, nobody wants it. Yeah.
And there's so many things you can do. Even we just ran this big hackathon, and then obviously most people, start from scratch, start with ideas, and they're like, okay, how can we show any sort of traction? How can we do user research when we haven't launched, when we don't have a project?
I see.
But you still can, right?
Yeah.
There's so many ways.
Okay, interesting view. Viet, what are you guys trying to build over there at Celestia?
Yeah, so at Celestia, I was telling a lot to our internal teams that our North Star is basically like Berlin in the 90s. Everyone thought that it's an abandoned city, and those who were the most creative and darest came and made it the city that you are, the way I'm witnessing today. And they were very creative. They basically wanted to build on their own terms. They didn't want to listen, and they just want to have a piece of real estate to just park their art. Same notion is when you want to build your own blockchain as an application, full stack, you just want to dump the block somewhere. And it just happens that we provide this. Moreover, I think the second thing that we are chasing a lot in DevRel is this amazing story of Solana Grizzlython, who is in Berlin in March 23, can relate to this. This was, I would say, one of the opening moments for me to be super bullish when I saw a whole third floor having a battle roar that they finished the hackathon. And I just understood that this is the community you want to build. This is the way how people win. And when the celebration began, you just see that developers, although they were competing for prize pools, for them it was a very, it's kind of like, it felt like a ritual. It was like, the Solana church, like, I don't know. And we try to recreate the same remotely because, as Nader said correctly, if you want to have the massive reach, go online. And now it's for us, I would say, both educational problem, how you explain remotely to people in different languages, and without the complexities of them to learn what is a blockchain.
Okay, so now we sort of have an idea of what we're each trying to build here. Obviously, we need manpower, we need developers, people power to build these things out. Where's the hottest place to find crack devs? Where do we discover them, and how do we bring them in?
Yeah, so funny story. Turkey is a very cracked place to find devs.
Turkey.
Yes.
Nice.
I learned it also by coincidence when I reached out to the Turkish community and said, hey guys, we're building this marathon, we want apps. Can you help us? 200 people came up and finished 30 days
No way.
of hackathon. I was like, this is insane.
Why do you think that is? What's happening in Turkey?
So they are very focused the way that you think of locked in the Western culture.
Yeah.
However, they embody this very Asian style of I will do it with my homies. And they don't want to, run around and find people online, etc. But in contrary, they really like to compete. And when they hear, for example, that the second place was Vietnam, I was shocked when I saw 500. And I was like, what the hell is this?
Shout out to the Turks.
Yeah, like the Turks kickstarted this.
Yeah.
Then Vietnamese people saw that. They started chiming in.
Nice.
Then Koreans, they were like, yo, our home ground. You're not touching this. And we started to see the numbers kicking in. And when I was asking all of them the same questions, like, guys, do you know what you're doing in this hackathon? And they were like, we didn't know what is a blockchain. And I was like, oh, a new wave. Let's go. And yeah, people are still very interested in this place, and they very appreciate when you talk to them in their native language. It was that simple.
Okay, a really geographic approach. So you kind of mentioned hackathons there. Is that kind of the main strategy?
Yeah, the main strategy is to give people hope that they can be noticed. As I like to follow Nader a lot, like when removing the noise, create the substance. And what people in our bubble, because of Shifai, missed a lot is hackathons felt really inwards most of the times, especially for those who have been established. And what we position our Mammothon is this is the way for you to prove execution and prove that you are the substance.
What's a sweet spot for a prize for a hackathon for these parts of the world that you're talking about?
That's a great question. So I would say
also in which country, right? In
Yeah,
Germany
exactly.
versus, I don't know, Vietnam is maybe different.
I would say
talking Turks, South Korea.
So APAC and Turkey, Middle East,
Yeah.
25K for them is basically, hey,
Huge.
I can run a pre-seed startup for like 5 months.
Hell yeah.
And they just see this and they're like, let's go.
Cool.
And of course, because when the Turkish, Vietnamese, Thai, Korean community, they will ask me why we're going there, I was showing them the graph, the demographics, that they have the youngest population ever with Argentina and Colombia. And I was like, guys, you are my future. If you are the champion, I know the country is your GTM.
That's great insight. And the young population is going to be a superpower in the next few years for sure. Patricia, you're kind of locked into Germany, I guess, yeah?
I am.
Talk to us about
and
it.
just for you to answer to what you said, I think my hot take is that in Germany, from what I've seen, they don't do it for the money. At least we just had a hackathon, 25,000 prize pool, over 9 winners. And it was nice. It was, but most people were like, the money, but what we do it for is because the experience is so amazing. We had a 2-week build station. I see some super team members here who were there, who actually worked alongside out. Shout out to Paul. A 2-week build station. So I used to be, before Polkadot, I was at Google. And there, I always loved to have dinner with colleagues. So we did the same thing. We catered lunch and dinner for 2 weeks. We had all our mentors there. We flew in trainers from across. We had investors come in. And it was just such a cool community feeling that people were just like, oh my God, I'm traveling. I'm taking time off, whatever else I was doing before. I'm taking a hotel room in Berlin or crashing with people just because it's so much fun. And then, yes, winning money is cool and all, but here we are in a privileged position in Germany, and the 5K or 7K total prize money is probably the least that you need to convince them to join if you're doing it right.
I think this is a superpower of Super Team. It's all about the vibes,
Thank
right?
you.
Right? I mean, even in my hometown, Toronto, the Super Team workspace, co-working space, is everybody knows about this.
Super Simon, yeah.
What's it called?
Simon is the local lead there.
Oh, gotcha,
maybe you know him.
yeah. Totally. So all about the vibes, all about the geography. Nader, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But with both of what they said, and I think it's just pretty complicated at this point because first of all, AI is taking a lot of mind share for a lot of smart developers that maybe 4 years ago would not have been so excited to go into the traditional software industry because 4 years ago or 3 years ago, a lot of the companies in the crypto space were raising at much higher valuations than you were seeing maybe in the traditional software space. But now you're seeing AI companies that come out of nowhere that are raising at $100 million or billions of dollars of valuations pretty quickly. So that is a draw, I think, for sure to a lot of people. So therefore, we have more competition, not only with other industries, but also within the crypto space. We now have 1,000 or so, probably, like projects, whatever you want to call these things, that are around, that are all fighting for the mind share that hasn't really grown that much within the developer community. So if you look at the graphs, they haven't really gone up. So therefore, we're competing at a much like harder level than we were a few years ago, which is challenging. So therefore, you have to really, really, really work hard, I think, to kind of get developer mindshare. And I think you have to take a multi-pronged approach. I think online, for me, is the most effective. That's kind of where I would start, because you don't have to leave your room, and you can kind of just hopefully reach people all over the world, and it costs them nothing, and it's very inexpensive to connect. I do think that in-person events and regional areas, like he said, are also extremely important, because you build like personal connections with people when you are kind of like trying to be part of their culture or to be in the same city that they're in and things like that. So you have that. You also have like cross-ecosystem opportunities. So for instance, like with Celestia, they may be able to kind of like partner with ZK Sync or something like that. And then you have like that community. So I mean, I think you have to really be finding every opportunity that's possibly out there and trying to kind of go out there and attract them as a general approach maybe. I think if your product is really good, it just becomes a lot easier to attract developers as well. So if you're doing DevRel for a company that no one likes, it's going to be impossible to get anything done, right? So I mean, you have to take that into consideration. So there's a lot of considerations. And then the final thing I'll say is that I think one approach that we're going to take is essentially trying to kind of like communicate the software stack to developers all around the world, because there's, I think in the range of like 30 million, I think was the number, maybe like, that's probably off potentially by multiples, but let's just say 30 million developers in the world. And I believe there's probably in the range of like 50 to 100K blockchain developers in the world. So if we can kind of like communicate to that 30 million crowd, the software stack for AI looks like this, for cloud looks like this, for blockchains look like this, and not try to like make them a blockchain developer, but instead expand the things that they can do with their own like skill set that they already have. I think we can kind of like try to crack that a little bit more and bring in more traditional developers, and that's going to be an approach that we take. So
that mindshare.
Sorry, traditional non-crypto developers?
Yes.
How are you doing that?
Well, like I said, we have to kind of communicate that there is no need to be a crypto developer or AI developer or whatever. You're just a software developer, and you can build AI apps, and you can now integrate crypto features, but doesn't mean you have to kind of be in Web3 or care about crypto or any of this stuff that we are passionate about, in my opinion.
Yeah, interesting take. This mindshare point I think is really important. Personally, I'm super bullish on, there's a few projects in this space that I think are ready for, the real potential user base of the future beyond crypto Twitter. I'm kind of bearish on the speculation phase of the technology. I think we're maybe already over that crest there.
Hard agree.
Yeah. So the mindshare thing is difficult. A lot of us talked about hackathons here. I've been seeing people on Twitter, basically they travel the world going hackathon to hackathon, funding their hostels, and then they're gone. Retention with the competition of AI, with the next hackathon. This is the struggle. Have we solved this? And if so, what are the tips?
Number one tip is, I was giving this talk in Vietnam when builders were asking why I'm here, like in crypto. And I told them that the biggest secret is that a lot of VCs and investors, angels, they're all asking the same question: how do we get into APAC? And when you tell them that, hey, you want to go to APAC, you do this, and they're like, oh, we don't have time. And you're like, if you don't have time, then it's in GMI. And while on the other side, the builder side is saying, hey, we have the skills, we don't know who has the money. And the hackathons became kind of like a medium for them to understand how I can talk in a very statistical language. It's not about, just yapping online and think that you will get debate engagement, but rather just proving by the work. And this is what struck me a lot culturally wise. Going back to this German part, we have this amazing blockchain club called Eigen Blockchain Club. Ahura decided to ape into this marathon. I remember investors DMing me saying, what the hell is happening with your remote hackathon online? Why these kids are shipping code in a church? And I was like, what? So this is what stakes a lot in the minds of like the young population, that they are free to do whatever they want on their own terms without us, being the Flying Dutchman. Like, and this stakes also in other countries. So like I see that people really miss those dynamics, and I believe if we continue like this, the problem that Nader shared is becoming solvable. Because I also heard a bunch of feedback that everyone's saying, well, I'm just a software engineer. I don't want to be a Solidity software engineer. Or like, I don't want to be an Anchor software engineer. But when you hear Mikolai from Super Team, explaining Solana and saying, hey, here's the template how to build an Only Possible in Solana app, people can reason to this because they read the tweet from Mert saying that blockchains is literally financial inclusion.
Sorry, you name dropped all these Solana, OGs. So Mikolai is basically my DevRel, what I referred to earlier, and he's the president of the
Did you pay him to be here? What's going on?
Amazing, thank you.
I just love the community. I just think that they're so good.
It's going way better than expected here. Maybe one more point through what you said earlier on Mindshare, right? So you asked about real world use cases, and there's one that's very, very interesting, and that shows just how bizarre these hype cycles are. Do you guys know Hivemapper, the startup? Someone's nodding. So in essence, it's like Google Maps on-chain, right? So it's there's a decentralized network of drivers that I believe everyone can participate in, and then you go out and record the world, basically. And they launched a couple years ago, so they've been around for a while. And at the time, their token shot up, right? But ever since, the team has been building. They've been steady, they've been constant, they've been growing. I don't know by how much, but they are super, super solid, building. Obviously have a way better network now than before, but their token crashed. It's like minus, 90% or more. And that just shows how disconnected the actual token value or token price is from the underlying utility and value and what's actually behind.
Well, what's the token used for?
Ooh, I know. No, I can only guess.
I think that's the problem with everybody. They just have a token, and it's like they expect people that are going to buy it, but it's just.
It is a utility token, so it is something that's allocated to drivers. But I'm not from within the company. I can only give you a rough idea.
I think Mo was giving interesting insights and previously here on stage about the power of tokenomics and what tokens can be used for. But that
I agree, but I feel like
changing.
there was no discussion around. I would say. Well, for instance, like the best example is Hyperliquid in the sense that they have very good tokenomics in the sense that they're literally not dumping tokens on the market. They're doing the opposite, right? They have revenue. I think like there was no discussion about that in that last conversation. Not like criticizing it or anything, but I think like that is such, in my opinion, that's like the most important thing to talk about today, right? Like because when Bitcoin launched, it was the only cryptocurrency. And there was only 20 million of them in the world, right? This was, 15 years ago? I don't know. I might be off. But so fast forward today, you can click a button, and then you can go to refresh the screen, then click a button, launch a million tokens, launch a million tokens. Like there's an infinite supply of tokens, so tokens mean nothing, right?
Yeah, we're on
At
the
this
same
point,
page here.
So so if that's the world we're living in, you can't expect someone to buy your token because they think your company is cool. You actually have to like find a way to, just like in a regular software company, make profit and then use that profit for something. And I think that's literally where we are today, and most people still haven't come to grips with that.
There's this massive spread between the valuation of crypto projects and the real value of the utility of the tokens. And that's going to come together either by the token price going down or revenues going up, people actually using the technology for sure. This makes it a really competitive environment. Previously, in the last cycle, money was everywhere. You'd have to be stupid not to be able to pick up some money in that market. But now, competition, even between blockchains is pretty fierce, and I think poaching is becoming more and more aggressive. What's been your experiences with poaching talent? How do we poach from other chains, and how do we keep the talent from leaving to greener fields?
No, I don't know, the question made me laugh because I used to be at Polkadot actually, right, before Solana. And I feel like it's either you or me. It's kind of the wrong approach, right? I think it's, what's it called? A rising tide lifts all boats, you know? So I don't think, like, we are not aggressively going after other developers. And if one of our developers decides they don't want to leave Rust and do something else with another chain, I'm happy for them, right? So I feel like this competitive, pseudo-competitive spirit that it's either you or me and we are enemies is not getting us anywhere, right? And I don't think was bringing the industry forward.
I mean, I have to agree with you, but it is still happening, right? I mean, we can have kind of a rosy view of it, but certainly there is poaching, no? Or you don't see that? Maybe you're too busy poaching.
I don't see that much. I mean, I don't think it's a problem because it's just how competition works. Like, if I wanted to stay at a company, I would stay there. And I've had offers in the past for more than I had been making, but I didn't want to leave. And I believe in what I'm doing, and that's where I'm going to be. And if I want to leave, it's not going to be because of any specific reason of someone poaching me. It's because I decided at that point I don't want to be here anymore, and I'm going to now explore my options. Someone could approach me with some like $1 billion amount or something, I might leave. But like, you know, most people are not going to have some crazy offer like that, right? So yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with poaching, in my opinion.
Also healthy competition, right?
True, yeah, absolutely.
I think the competition is irrelevant in the sense that we really miss the Cinderella stories in our industry. Good example of Cinderella stories that basically rise the tides for all boats. First, Hayden Adams, the guy just learned how to code Solidity as first language. 2020, 21, who was writing it, congratulations. Then we go to Jeff. He just decided that, hey, you know what? I kind of made money. I failed my first startup, which was also a trading platform. I'll just do it on my own grind, raise a little bit of money, and then just make everyone rich. I choose rich. Basically, the notion was I choose rich, and it was the Cinderella that said, I'll make everyone rich. And now everyone just loves it. And I see that we miss this so much that when I was shocked by the amount of engagements when Pump.Fun, one of the co-founders was making 3,000 DMs to get product market fit. And you were like, this is the grind people want to see. While, you know, the CT, when you ask a bunch of anons, like what they think about us, they're like, oh, you all just flying across the world and we don't know what you're doing. Like, and then the most revelational question I got, especially from devs and users, was that, hey, I bought a token, what can I do with it? And it felt like, you know, a question like, imagine today you have euros or dollars, and the only thing you can do is to buy T-bills or bunds. That's where we are. And this is where the devs have questions like what they can build, so it makes sense also to them. Yeah, it's kind of like weird.
I don't know. I feel like that we are at this moment seeing real use cases that are not just tokens, that are not just speculative, that are. I think there's two categories maybe right now that I think we're starting to see. Obviously, trading and I would say these central limit order book type of applications, those are actually pretty good with product market fit. Even though I'm not a big fan of speculative stuff and I don't really do all that, but that's like a great example of something that everyone in the world wants to do. Like people in the United States, they want to trade perps. People all over the world, they want to have access to these newer buying opportunities and trade perps. So that's a good product market fit, right? So that's going to be a thing. That's going to continue to grow, I'm sure. But also there are products like ZK-TLS, to me, is like one of the most exciting areas because we're seeing companies like the founder of Reddit. We're seeing Earnify, #1 app in the App Store in finance. We're seeing hundreds of builders and dozens of live applications with tens of millions of dollars of revenue building on crypto rails, but the user using the application has no fucking clue that they're using crypto. So that's kind of what really got me excited about coming into this space anyway, right? Is like, how can we enhance UX and how can we provide value to someone with them just being able to sign up, use an app, and they have no idea. We're just improving the product that is being able to be built. So ZK-TLS is a prime example, product market fit, live apps on the App Store, revenue, everything you could possibly imagine. The users that are using the apps have no clue that it's using crypto.
Beautiful stuff. It's been a great panel. Just in the last few seconds here, I'd like to hear about the DevRel Dream Team. What are the qualities of the devs that we're trying to bring in, either leadership or, you know, in the grease? What are the qualities of the top devs we're looking for here?
I would say empathy.
Empathy, damn.
Because developer experience sucks.
Yeah,
I launched a web app that got attention from my mom faster than I could cook. any app on Web3. And I understood that we're in deep trouble.
Nice. Patricia?
The ones that do the best are the ones that have business acumen on top of tech skills.
Yep, beautiful. Nader?
For developers, like what am I looking for in a developer?
Yeah, or any member of a DevRel team.
Oh, so if I'm for a developer, it would be grit. For a DevRel team member, it would be someone that's like multi-talented in a lot of things, and it doesn't have to be one specific thing. But if they were just, very, very good at like 3 or 4 things, that's kind of a standout candidate often.
Grit, business acumen, and empathy. What a panel, guys. Thank you very much for being here. Let's give them a round. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.